Mushroom Kingdom, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Calm Mind Podcast. Hey, Ron. How's your week going, bud?
It's even worse than what you said, because he says, here we come, instead of here we go!
Did I get it wrong? Stupid. I said, here we go. Did you not like it, the Mario trailer?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was beautiful.
Same.
Like, literally, it sucks, because literally every single thing is perfect, except for, Chris Pratt's voice.
What can you explain to me? Because I heard it, and I had no problems, and then the internet has told me that it's just wrong. That his voice is just awful, and it's the worst thing to happen since, like, disease. So, like, what's the deal here?
Do you want me to defend your hyperbole, or like, that's not what happened?
Okay, all right. That's just how it feels. Like everyone's very angry about his voice. That's all I'm saying. I might be over-exaggerating a little bit.
It's because they're doing a beloved character, and they want to hear a voice that's at least somewhat similar to the character, or like even a middle ground. But it's literally just Chris Pratt's voice with a slight Brooklyn accent.
Okay.
And especially since he said, it's not gonna it's not gonna be just him doing a Chris Pratt voice, and then it is.
That's a real way to guarantee you're gonna like mess up, though. If you're Chris Pratt and you say, I'm not going to do a Chris Pratt voice, you can only do Chris Pratt voices. You're Chris Pratt. That's what you do.
Well, no, because for example, actors should be able to act in characters other than themselves.
But it's still gonna sound. It's still gonna sound like them. Like Bowser. Like I thought the voice that Jack Black did for Bowser is amazing. But he still sounds like Jack Black. Like I can hear that and go, oh, it's Jack Black.
I mean, even Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob and a billion other characters, still. I mean, I'm a fan of voice actors, so I can recognize voice actors, but it still sounds like Tom Kenny in a lot of the voices. But obviously he's a voice actor, so he can change it way more than
that's the specialism.
Jack Black. But Jack Black is, a vocalist, so he can change his voice a bit. And he did it perfectly. And also his voice, it's relatively closer to Bowser than Chris Pratt is to Mario. But I think it's also just, there's been a conversation about actors replacing voice acting roles for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like, since even Kung Fu Panda, which was the last, which was another Jack Black production where people like Jack Black as the main character, but then the other characters, they're voiced by other famous celebrities, and they just sound like the celebrities doing their normal voices.
So I understand the complaint, but like at the end of the day, if those actors sell the tickets, like that's how the movie studio's got to make their money.
But here's the thing:
make it profitable.
People would have still watched it if it wasn't Chris Pratt. Like, it's literally Super Mario. It's like
I would argue that. Like the fact that Chris Pratt, and I know Chris Pratt as an actor in particular has been in like hot water, cold water, I don't really know, but like is selling tickets. Like for sure. Yes, people would have watched it, but it's not like the movie studio is gonna sit there and go, oh, let's make less money. They're gonna hire someone who has the AAA star power, right? Yeah,
that's how all Hollywood is. But like another thing is, like, Chris Pratt could have done a voice. He could have. Yeah. Like, he's a talented guy. He could have done a voice. Again, I'm not there behind the scenes. I don't know what the producer or director is telling him. I don't know the decisions yet. We haven't seen the movie. We literally see one line.
Yeah.
I assume it's going to be an isekai. Do you know what an isekai is?
I don't know what that is, no.
It's a genre of usually, Japanese media where a person's transported to another world. I mean, that's what Mario has always been.
Right, yes. I think I saw a video about this.
So it's like, he's probably going to start out as just a normal guy, be like with a Brooklyn accent, and then slowly be a bit more like Mario. Not going to have a completely different voice change, but maybe be more energetic and whimsical as the movie goes along. I don't know. I haven't watched the film, so I'm not I don't criticize things in full unless I've seen the thing in full. I'm also I'm entertained by Chris Pratt. Like, sure. I've always enjoyed Chris Pratt as an entertainer. So, like, a huge Parks and Rec fan. Yeah, huge. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I liked the Lego movie a bunch. Like, that was like a big deal back when that came out, and nobody criticized his involvement in it. It was more just like, by now people have had Chris Pratt fatigue, so specifically they hate Chris Pratt specifically.
This is true. Yeah. And everyone's always up for Jack Black and stuff. And I'll confess, I'm a Jack Black fangirl, man. I love Jack Black in anything and everything. Just always.
Jack Black, like, even if you didn't like him, yeah, you are a huge Jack Black fan, we can confirm. But, like, Jack Black seems to be, like, one of those actors that is, first, a legend already, but that's, there are a lot of legendary actors, but also one of the people with, like, a squeaky clean persona, or at least, like, one of the last great actors, not one of the last great entertainers. Like, people would compare him to, like, let's say, Jim Carrey, for example. Even more squeaky clean than Jim Carrey, because, some people hate Jim Carrey. But, like, Jack Black, like, you can...
Who hates
nobody
Jack Black?
Nobody
You know what I
denies
mean?
his artistry, But, like, again, other than the voice acting, literally the animation is perfect. I think the art direction was beautiful. Like, the first shots with the first scene with, like, Bowser versus the Penguins. Like, that
amazing.
Was literally perfect visually.
It is a gorgeous-looking movie. I like that they're obviously not... They're doing it fully animated. They're not trying to Detective Pikachu this. I think they maybe... I guess they did the live-action Mario back in the day. I keep on saying Mario. I know it's Mario. I'm just doing it wrong because I'm uncultured. It's Mario. But... I guess they've
You're offending the Italians, Toby.
I'm sorry, it's Mario, the Mario movie, but it's so bright and colourful, which Mario should be. It's literally like they've turned Mario Odyssey into a movie, which, or that look, I guess, which I love.
And again, we recorded this 2 weeks early, so I don't know how outdated this news is. Maybe nobody's going to be talking about this.
It's
by the
true.
time
I
this
chose
comes
a
out.
bad topic to launch us off on, where I'm like, Mushroom Kingdom here. And people are going to be like, what was that about? Again, because people's attention spans are so... Literally, we mentioned 2 episodes ago, as of recording this, we mentioned the Corn Kid on TikTok. And, like, I'm certain I haven't heard the Corn song in, like, a week. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we did that. Even that's starting to feel kind of dated, which is super weird because it's been like 2 weeks.
That's different. That's a meme.
Yeah, that's true.
Memes go by quicker than
Very true.
Hollywood.
You've been up to stuff over the last 2 weeks that I wanted to ask about because you've been undergoing some Jewish holidays, right?
Undertaking
a
procedure.
Proceeding through some Jewish holidays. Because I messaged you about the podcast and you said I shouldn't really be even messaging you right now, Toby. Go away. I'm doing religious things. So I wanted to know more about like what you've been up to.
I am bathing in the Lord.
You're being holy. What's going on?
I don't want to get the phone wet in the juices of religion.
Yeah, as the Jews.
No, so this is the first month in the Jewish calendar, which has literally like 3 huge holidays. Mm-hmm. It's like, I guess the only month where, in Judaism where like it's just like 3 back-to-back huge holidays. So you have like the Jewish New Year's naturally in the first month, and then after that you have the literal like most important Jewish holiday, which is Yom Kippur, which is literally Day of Atonement. So it's like you're supposed to just like reflect and ask God for forgiveness for anything that you've done or whatever, like not specifically like sins or anything, just like anything that you've done. And then like
making a sandwich.
I'm sorry for making a sandwich.
Did you ask for atonement?
Nah, he knows what he like
he knows the deal.
I've never been like I don't even understand I understand the people like for example pray, like praying if you're religious it's literally you speaking to God, but like I understand even from like a non-religious perspective, like praying just is really good for comfort, I guess, for humans. It's just like people have been praying since the beginning of time. It's just like it'll make you feel better if you pray. So might as well pray if it doesn't hurt anybody. I've always been from the perspective of like, why do I need to talk to him if he can read my mind? Like, yeah, if God did exist, why would I need to, like, he knows what's up.
This is one of my favorite things about like, cause I'm an atheist and one of my favorite arguments is if I die and then there's like a God and it's like all knowing, like, I don't gotta argue my case. They know.
Exactly.
They know what's up.
They know.
It's fine. And then if I'm still like not cool to hang, then I guess that kind of sucks to be me, I guess. But like, it's fine. Like they know. What am I gonna argue? You didn't give me enough evidence. They know. They know.
Like, wouldn't it be like even more like arrogant to say like I can argue with God? Like, nah, he knows.
I mean, I give it a good go, but I suspect it wouldn't go well for me.
But yeah, Yom Kippur is literally Day of Atonement. You fast the entire day. What's interesting is that in order to explain what I do during that day, you have to understand what like Jews in general do. So religious, like Orthodox Jews, any holiday, they are not using electronics. They're not working, just like on the Sabbath. That's on Shabbat, on Saturday, Orthodox Jews do not use electricity, okay? And that is extended to holidays. Non-religious Jews, non-observant Jews like me, we use electricity, on Saturday. I'm doing it right now. We same thing for holidays. But a lot of non-observant Jews will make an exception for Yom Kippur because it's like the most important holiday and be like, okay, I won't use electronics on that day, which makes the fasting even harder.
Right.
So it's like you're fasting for a day and you're also just not doing anything fun. If you're with family, like, I am always usually, you're going to play some games and stuff. And I don't have to go to, it's called shul. So here's what's so annoying. So like, do you know what synagogue is?
A synagogue is sort of... I'm going to do my best, and then you're going to tell me why it's wrong, but my assumption is it's effectively a Jewish church.
Yeah, so, Jewish place of worship.
Sure.
But, like, Jews don't say synagogue.
Oh.
I guess we say shul, which I assume is Yiddish. It's not Hebrew. Hebrew is Bet Knesset, but it's like... Yeah, it's annoying because I always want to say shul, but no non-Jew would know what the hell a shul is.
Right.
But so I have to say synagogue, which I never say. And Reform Jews say temple. Reform Jews are like Jews, like the sect of Jews that are just like, they've changed all the rules in order to make them way more accessible for modern people. For example, saying temple is an example because like it makes it sound more like church. Or like they will use electronics on Saturday in the church even, and like the rabbis could be like, women, which is like again not like allowed in the Torah, but like,
sure.
But like they'll do it just because it's more. It's more accessible, makes people come to Judaism easier if like the rules are easier to follow. But so they'll say temple while I say shul.
So they're the cool Jews.
They're like the Jews that are represented in like media a lot are usually them.
Ah, okay.
Because it's like way less, it's way easier to explain. It's like, because it looks whenever, like, because a Reformed Jew kind of just looks like a Christian that is Jewish.
Right.
Like what they do. It's just like they'll even like, I've heard of like a Hanukkah bush. That's like, some Reformed Jews make Hanukkah bushes. Which is like just to make it feel like Christmas when that's not a thing in Judaism. Like I'm sure that's like a very like minority of Reformed Jews, but that's the extent of how much they want to like assimilate Judaism with like modern culture.
Got ya.
I have nothing against it or anything, but it's like it's not Judaism by then. Whatever, it doesn't matter. All religions made up, but. So yeah, it's Yom Kippur is not the funnest holiday. Whenever like everybody's like, whenever I'm like, hey, I'm having I have a Jewish holiday right now. Let me do my thing. Everybody's like, enjoy, and I'm
have
like,
a good holiday. Yeah. Well, it sounds. I mean, what was it like for you? Like no technology and no work. You just kind of having a very self-reflective time.
Again, I'm agnostic, so I'm not like praying to God, being like atoning. So it's more like. No, I'm not. I'm literally just trying to keep my mind off the fact that I'm hungry, which is, play board games with the family, read a manga, stuff like that.
I can imagine a day like that, like a forced day of no technology and no eating to be, while very uncomfortable, like a good opportunity to, I guess, meditate.
Yeah, definitely. That's what they're supposed to
do. I guess the whole, I mean, I don't know necessarily about Day of Atonement and asking for forgiveness for anything I feel awful about, because that sounds like a horrible way to spend time with my thoughts, But like, just meditation in general.
For one day, it's fine to be like, I shouldn't have done that.
For a whole day? That sounds like a day that's going to have me...
You're not doing it 24/7.
Right,
you're asleep for half of the day. You're asleep for for the night, and then sleep for maybe a few hours during the day, taking some naps. And you're eating some... Oh, wait, you're not eating. Never mind. You're talking to other people and you're praying.
Sure.
I'd say there's probably like 3 hours maximum of reflecting, like, which is like just an extreme therapy session once a year. I assume that's what some very Orthodox Jews do, but like nobody does that really.
I heard of people. This was years ago. I heard about this, like maybe even a decade at this point, who go to Buddhist retreats, to silent Buddhist retreats where there's no technology, or you're not supposed to take technology, and you are supposed to spend a full week in silence as part of this kind of meditative experience. And I think about that sometimes, and like how distressed I think the average, like it sounds like, oh yeah, I could do that. I feel like after literally like 2-3 hours, you would be in distress. Like, I need to make noise, or I need to say something, or I need someone to say something, you know? I think it's a very uncomfortable thing to literally be sat with your thoughts. There's so many things that we do throughout the day, myself included, to just not be alone with thoughts, which is, you know, obviously a sign of therapy needed.
Yeah, that's different. Like, for me, it's not like my problem is not thinking.
Right.
I mean, it is. My problem is overthinking. But like, even then, it's not like I start like getting like a panic attack after I think.
No.
Like, I don't like. We'll talk about it, what your thoughts are soon. But like, back to like the meditating, where it's like, I assume silence after 3 hours. Maybe you get used to it. After 24 hours, then it gets probably ridiculous. But I guess for the first hour or so, you get used to it, I assume. But when you think of meditation, what do you think you're supposed to do?
I think you are supposed to try and shut off from the sensations around you and engage with really whatever thought comes in. And just kind of
engage,
observe at a distance. Oh, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that. And then, if there is something of particular interest, to just kind of delve a little deeper into it. I don't know that there's a right way to meditate. I think there's probably everyone's different ways of doing it.
That's therapy.
Okay.
Meditation, from what I've heard, I may be wrong, because maybe my therapist has given me a brand of meditation that's specifically tailored for like social anxiety or something. Possibly. I don't know. But it's the opposite of that.
Okay.
It's if a thought comes to you, you have to learn to let it go. Go.
See, I think about thoughts as they'll go by themselves. They come in and they go out, and it's important, I think, to recognize that we are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are, it can be any number of things that kind of go in, and it's just to watch them go by. And I'm thinking about that. Why am I thinking about that? It doesn't matter. It's off. And just to take note a little bit. That's kind of what I think about, but I don't know. Maybe it's similar, just different wording. I don't know.
Because, for example, you're supposed to sit there and, like, all the meditation guys that I've seen on YouTube, it's like they'll be like, okay, imagine this thing. Now imagine it just going away. And and then just sit there, do nothing, and then if a thought comes, you learn to let it go. And that's why it helps you in life, because you're able to, like, if you have anxiety or anything that's just like making you angry or happy or whatever, not happy, but like, you know what I mean? Any big emotion, you're able to, in the moment, if you learn how to meditate, you're able to just let it go. And
well, I guess that's the difference between if a meditation is guided or self-guided. Because if it's guided, like, you're given specific prompts, like, think of all your earthly attachments, Avatar, and then you go through and you let go of them. And
haven't you, like, when you were seeing a meditation in media, weren't they like saying how it's all about just like not thinking?
No, I think meditation is about thinking.
Let me Google it.
I don't know. I'm sure there are different schools of thought for different meditation types and styles. I'm sure there's, a whole bunch.
I think so. Yeah, it is mindfulness, but the question is, what do you do with whatever you noticed in your mind? Do you let it go, or do you think about it even more? Because I would assume for people with anxiety, they wouldn't want you to think, like, the whole, like, you're trying to make it a reflex that you're able to, without even meditating. Like, let's say you're in the middle of the road in a store, for example, and you start having anxiety or whatever, you're supposed to now, if you practice meditation, to be able to just relinquish the thought, I would assume. But I guess, meditation is it's not about the end product. It's about, it is about thinking about what's in your mind. But then different schools will tell you what to do with what you think.
You can tell listeners that both Ron and I are experts in meditation, and we know exactly what we're talking.
Well, okay, so here's the problem.
Yeah.
So I can never do meditation because I always have a physical sensation. So I'm always like itchy somewhere, or like, I always have to itch every single half a minute. Something is itchy on me.
You've just said itch, and now I want to scratch my nose. Thanks. I was not
You're welcome.
needing an itch right before you said the word itch. How many
Same.
of our listeners just started to itch?
No, but I don't know if you noticed, but like I have been itching since the beginning of the I'm just always itching myself. I don't know.
Mm.
It's not like an anxiety thing. It's just more like I just literally feel a physical sensation in parts of the body that itch. And I notice it even more when I'm meditating, because especially when I'm trying to go to sleep, for example, I can like it'll take me sometimes like an hour to fall asleep because something's uncomfortable in my body. Is that not a thing that you have to deal with?
No, actually, sleep is, I mean, somewhat famously or infamously, people who follow me on socials will know that sleep is something I do not have an issue with in terms of not being able to achieve it. I can achieve it basically anywhere, at almost any time. I can be lying in the middle of a convention floor, and just with people all around me, and just lie on my back, shut my eyes, put a bag under my head, and I'll dip out of existence for about 5 minutes and then just kind of come back, and it's like a weird little soft reboot. And at night, when I want to go to sleep, I shut my eyes and I'm asleep. That's it. Yeah. I'm off. I feel very wow, what's the word? It sounds like it would be really rough or suck to struggle with getting to sleep.
It's not a thing that it's not like a defining thing. I just sometimes don't fall asleep easy, and then and a lot of times I do. Like I don't have sleep apnea or anything. And just to be clear for the audience, I know that meditation is literally to think, like thinking. Like the act of meditating is pondering your thoughts. But the dispute was more about like what you do with the thoughts.
With them, yeah. No, I understand your point of view, like being able to let go of it. I think there's just different ways that you can meditate, and I'm sure I've done stuff like that as well. Yeah.
And like back to the sleep, like I assume you also like don't wake up in the middle of the night. Like I don't either.
Not often. Like if I'm ill, sometimes I mean, you always get that like 1 or 2 days a year for me where it does not matter. I don't know why. Today is the day. I just can't sleep. I'm irritable or whatever. And there's usually about 1 day a year where the, 22-hour wake cycle happens, where just for whatever reason, 1 day a year, it's suddenly like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and I'm sitting there going, I'm not even tired. What's going on? And then suddenly you're kind of there at 8, like, I'm going to power through. And then by 10 o'clock, you go, oh no, that was a terrible idea. Fall straight to sleep by 10 a.m. in the morning. And then your whole sleep schedule's messed up for a week. That happens to me about once a year, to be honest.
I know it's not rare for like YouTubers to do this, but like once, like that experience that I had, I did that once where I went to sleep like 6 p.m. And I woke up like 2 o'clock, like fully refreshed and everything. And it was the coolest experience ever. Like for like a whole 3 days, I was waking up in the middle of the morning.
Whoa!
Or not in the middle, the earliest hours of the morning, the wee hours.
You get so much done when you do that as well, because you just start the day and
basically you
get all of the to-do list done.
It was cool. It was cool. It's cool waking up, seeing life in a different perspective.
Yeah. I got a great story to tell you based on that. I got a wonderful story to tell you based on that.
All right.
When I was 17, I think it was the summer of college, or maybe it was the first summer of uni, I don't remember, 17, 18. And I had been getting up, as most late teenagers do, at sort of like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, not really with much goal in the summer. And my parents, who were still doing, my parents were what's called school escorts, which is where for kids with learning difficulties, they'll sit in the back of the car with those kids and make sure that they get to school okay, and that they've kind of got everything that they need, and that if they've got any special learning difficulties, whatever. So they were getting up at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to get ready for these school runs, and they'd be getting picked up by 9. And my parents had said to me, Toby, you have to start getting up at an earlier time. You're missing half the day. Oh, nothing happens anyway. So this morning I decided to prove a point, and I'd go downstairs and meet my parents.
Wait, this morning or that morning?
That morning. I decided, not this morning, this morning.
Like, you wake up relatively early. So
that morning, years ago, I decided I was going to prove a point to my parents, and I was going to get up. So I got up at sort of 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and they're waiting out the front for their lift to arrive. I went out in my dressing gown with my bowl of cereal. I'm sitting there and they're like, morning, Mum, morning, Dad. And they're like, oh, you're up. Isn't that wonderful? And I'm like, yeah, I told you, nothing ever happens at this time of the morning. And just like that, you couldn't have written it, a car
explosion
nearly comes speeding down the road, clips another car that's parked, flips in the air, lands on its head, and lands not the distance I am to my computer screen in front of us. Like, if we were standing like a little bit more forward, we would have been under that car, and we're just watching this crash happen, and I've just said nothing happens in the morning, and then that happens. The driver was okay.
What a hilarious and lighthearted story.
The driver was okay in the end. Well, actually, in the end, he wasn't okay. But like at the end of that story, he was.
Wait,
fine.
what does that mean? Later, he got a cut.
I think he died like a year later or something, and whether that was related to the accident or not,
unrelated.
Wow. We don't know.
Wait, why do you know this guy?
He was an old guy. Because we checked in on him after the accident. Like it was literally in front of our house, and we just watched this car like flip in the air, and I'm just there still holding the bowl of cereal. Mum and Dad spring into action, and they know CPR, and they know all the recovery things that you need to know. They've been trained for that. I'm sitting there with nothing to contribute, still holding the bowl of cereal, just going, well, I can't say it on the podcast. And I can put down the bowl of cereal, and we're calling the ambulance. But it was amazing to see how quickly people mobilized actually in that situation. People were just suddenly everywhere, like directing traffic, and it just almost out of nowhere people were coming out of the houses to help. But the guy survived the at least the initial incident, and I think was okay for a good long while after that. But it was just so bizarre. You couldn't have written it. Nothing happens in the morning, crash.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
That's the kind of story you want to tell on a podcast.
That's exactly the kind of story you want to tell on a podcast. It's a shame it isn't true. No, it is true. Can you imagine? I was just making that up on the spot.
It's reminding me, because it's a combination of all the topics that we're talking about. So Yom Kippur, the day where we fast, sometimes people pass out in the shul, in the synagogue. That only it's usually like the inexperienced 13-year-olds who it's their first year of fasting, and they just didn't do something correctly. They overdid it. I don't know what they overdid. Maybe they thought that they could be as energetic as they could when they aren't fasting. Whatever. So sometimes you'll have an ambulance come to the synagogue. But it's always fine. They just need a drink of water, some sugar. But here's the thing: it's again, all Jewish rules or stuff like that. It's the health and life comes first. You're allowed to do whatever you want if it's gonna help you live.
Of course.
And also there is also a rule you're able to drink and eat kazait and kibetza, which means an olive or an egg. So you're allowed to drink and eat the amount of an egg or olive. But apparently in biblical times, olives were huge. So it's bigger than you think.
There's quite a discrepancy there between the size of an olive and an egg. How specific are we on ostrich egg, hen egg?
Maybe it's a big biblical creature's egg. I don't know. Yeah. Like a leviathan egg.
I was going to say leviathan egg. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, hopefully. There's a whole tale in the Bible before, when the Jews were crossing the desert, coming from Egypt, after they left Egypt, and they were scouting out the land that they were going to make their home again. They scouted the land, and they come back and there's giants there. There's literal giants in the land of Canaan, which is now Israel. And it's so I assumed the biblical fruit were giant size too, if there are literal giants in that area. I don't know what they saw. I don't know why there's giants in the Bible. What's this reminds me of Tolkien, for example, where it's again, all the Tolkien books, or Lord of the Rings, for example, is supposed to be our history. It's supposed to have taken in our past, and all these fictional creatures are basically, for example, all the bones of animals that we find, prehistoric animals, they are actually the bones of these mythical creatures. For example, we'll find an elephant skull, and in our own history, people thought that those were the skulls of cyclopses, for example.
Yeah, of course. You would. Looking at one of those, you would absolutely think that.
so it's the same thing in like the token books in Lord of the Rings. Like those are actually supposed to be the skulls of like orcs or like or trolls, for example. And elves did exist, but they went to a different land. As the age progressed, or like, and the dwarves went underground, and it's really cool. I like that. I like that perception. So it's like so it's the same thing. Whenever something like that cannot physically happen, it is present in the Bible. I'm like, what was the historical basis of that?
Like why was that written in there in relation to what people thought at the time would be like? I guess people would think it be believable. I guess.
Basically, like
if someone was writing a historical text now, and they included giants, like a lot of people, there would be eyebrows raised. Is the idea that perhaps back then, if you wrote that in the book, there wouldn't be eyebrows raised because it's like, well, we found these giant skulls.
Exactly,
it's totally possible.
The same thing, yeah. Like people back then thought unicorns were real, but that was just like rhinoceroses and stuff like that. Or they thought dragons were real, but that's just huge lizards. And things were also like metaphors. Like the dragons were just like metaphors for like Satan, at least in Europe, not in China, for example. But like I just love that. I love finding like the origin, just like how we have origins of Pokemon. I like to see the origins of mythological creatures and fictional stories and stuff like that. Like all these what's it called? Civilizations having in their own texts stories of like biblical floods, for example. And that's just because their rivers would flood sometimes, and it would seem like a catastrophic event for them.
Sure.
But it's just the rivers flooding, because especially since a lot of these ancient civilizations, they were founded, on rivers. Like the rivers was literally
Makes
their
sense.
god, basically. So they would worship it, and they would also like if something bad would go, if the river would overflow, that's literally like a huge. Actually, overflow is probably good. It's probably good for the crops, but like a whole flood, that's catastrophic. That literally ends their entire year. Thousands of people would die. So like they're gonna write that down. That's gonna become like a biblical event in their history.
That's very true. I hadn't really thought about that so much, but it makes perfect sense, especially if your grandparents or your ancestors have set up, base near this river, and then for generations everything's fine, and then one day it's not. Because maybe this is a flood that is quite natural that would only occur every 3 years, or certain amounts of erosion or whatever would make this happen. But you don't know that, so it's just like, what did we do? What did we do to make the gods angry? That we had life here, but now we don't.
Yeah, in high school, one of my rabbis also interpreted some of the things in the Bible. For example, do you know the 10 plagues?
Yeah.
You know what the 10 plagues are?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not off by heart, but I know.
Oh, not you literally know the exact 10 plagues. You know the Bible? Name all 10 plagues. Actually, that's
number 10.
Number 10.
A swarm of True Green 7 videos.
The death of the firstborn.
Okay, that one hit hard.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite plague. But I hope my favorite plague is on the list.
But if we missed your favorite plague, let us know in the comments. This biblical reading has been sponsored by NordVPN. Right.
Come on, of course, Nord. There have been shows on the History Channel trying to explain hey, what are these explaining biblical events through science and stuff like that. Maybe the first one was the first plague is blood, plague of blood, where all the water turns into blood, and so historically they would be okay, sometimes when the Nile River would flood, or there would some minerals would get into the water that turned the water red.
Sure.
That's it. That's the explanation. Or for example, and then each plague would lead to the next plague. For example, the second plague is frogs. So whenever whenever the Nile would overflow, frogs would now start coming out of the Nile. This is technically not the correct order, but whatever.
The locusts would come before the frogs.
The locusts would come
because they
before
draw the frogs out
The
of the
locust
water
is after the frog
Yeah, right, sure.
But
a little bit of creative liberty. See, I really love stuff like that. But I always worry a little bit because, like, first of all, I'm not a historian. Heck, I'm
sorry, but the third one is lice, though. So the sixth one is locust, I think, but the third one is lice. Maybe lice do come after frogs. Maybe frogs are everywhere. Then maybe there would be some water louse that's on the frog. I don't know, but I like the idea that there's like a scientific explanation. But
yeah, I like the idea of that. But like I said, like I'm not a historian.
And then after I keep interrupting you, but then
after the lice, I'm not a historian.
After the lice,
go on.
After the lice, it's boils. So it makes sense. If you get lice, you get some, you'll get bumps on yourself. And then after that is, I don't know, the death of animals. But whatever, it doesn't matter.
Are you done, Historian Green 7? True Historian 7? Who can only name 7 of the 10 plagues?
That's why I'm True Green 7.
That's it, because you only know the 7 of them.
No, I'm actually interested in what you were going to say.
I was just going to say, because obviously I worry about the creative embellishment of the Discovery Channel or stuff like that, because they've got to make it digestible for people. So I don't know how legit that stuff is, and I don't like when people.
It's not legit. It's not history.
Yeah, I don't love when it's a fun thought experiment. But something irks me, I don't know why, about when people are like, well, they say, historically, we know for a fact that this or this or this or this happened. And I'm like, you don't have a clue. You just heard that once on YouTube. And I don't think you know that for a fact. I think but I mean, we all do that, to be fair. I spout off stuff, I'm sure, that I think, well, we know this for a fact. And then I think, I
don't think they say they know it for a fact. It's more like there are some facts. Like, yeah, if the Nile does overflow and have this kind of mineral, and then there's we theorize that then that is the case in the Bible. That's the same thing that's what it was a reference to.
Yeah.
But I just think that it's very interesting. It's the same thing again, like when you're theorizing about video games, or about video game lore. I mean, you've done it a billion times. It's like I would assume you would be interested in that too.
Yeah, I like them. I guess that's it. Like I like them as stories. I don't like them as facts. I don't mind as much when
Nobody's
it comes
saying they're facts.
Well, some people do.
I mean, religious people, but I don't think the History Channel is saying that they're facts. I think these are our theories.
I don't know. My dad, for example, might have said to me once in a conversation. Well, I guarantee what he's done is he's just watched a video on the History Channel where he'll assert with full confidence, we know for a fact that the Great Flood happened. And I'm like, hang on, slow, let's just rewind just a little bit. That may be the case, but we just rewind just a tad and work out where you heard that from, because I want to, you know what I mean? I think people do. And then we all do it. And it's fine when I do it about Pokemon, because there's no real world stakes to Pokemon. Realistically,
true. Yeah.
But obviously when you're talking about history, but I'm not a historian, and neither's my dad, and that's fine. He means it he's not about to publish a paper, so it's all good.
Exactly. I don't think the History Channel, the people making the shows are presenting these shows as peer-reviewed. They're presenting it to all the other historians and scientists and be like, no, I think we've cracked the code.
Yeah.
They're just nah, this is all the scientists and historians know that this is just entertainment. They may be trying to trick their audience, but I think the people making it know that this is not how science works. But what's funny is that does relate to the next holiday that's coming up in literally 2 days in Judaism that I will have to now also immerse myself into, which is Sukkot, which literally means huts.
Huts.
The holiday is called huts.
Okay. And what do you do on huts?
So, in the book of Exodus, when the Jews left Egypt or whatever, they spent 40 years in the desert when it could have taken it was supposed to be a 2-year journey. Took them 40 years because God was like, I don't like you.
Sounds like they really needed some sat nav or something. But
what's funny is that literally in the Bible, it's they did the whole they sinned in the desert. They did a lot of sins, and they're like, I'm not going to get into it. Well, hang on.
I want to know what sins they were up to.
Man wants to know the sins.
That sounds scandalous. What sins did they do?
So, when Moses was going up the mountain to get Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments.
Oh yeah. What do you do?
He literally left. We don't know.
I want the gossip.
He was literally gone for 2 days, and during those 2 days, all the Israelites were like panicking and started sinning. So like they were literally.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but I love this idea of like, has anyone seen Moses? No, he left like 2 days ago. You haven't seen him? What are we gonna do? I don't know. Let's start sinning.
They're like, okay, God has left us. Let us create false idols. And they literally make the golden calf.
It
and
was
they're like,
2
this
days.
Is it was like 2 days.
They couldn't wait.
Sorry. It may have been 30 days. Let me see how.
Oh, that's a little bit more reasonable. But
now I understand.
No, but like after 2 days, like that's not create new idol territory. Like day 29, maybe. Day 2 is.
40. Yeah, it was 40 days. That's the Omer.
But hang on. So I need to understand this conversation. So
40 days and nights.
Moses goes to God to hang out with God for a little bit and get some commandments and to work out what to do next. But he's like, "Hey guys, stay here, chill out, don't make any idols while I'm gone. I got to go chat with God." They're like, "No worries, Moses. See you in a bit." And then after 30 days or 40 days, he comes back and he's like, "Oh, guys, what have you all done? You've got all these new idols." And they're like, "We were gone for a while." And so God, don't punish us for 40 years of traveling because these guys, you were the one holding me up. You know what I mean? God's going to punish them. He was the one having a conversation with him. It's like he was like looking over Moses' shoulder at all the other people going, "Oh no, just keep talking to me a little bit longer. I think they're making some new idols over there. Keep chatting with me."
This would make a great show because there's like a lot of like different like episodes that happen in the desert. Like it's like a whole overarching thing, but there's like individual episodes and like things that they had, like things that they had to do and things that the Israelites just sinned again and like just kept on sinning. They just kept on sinning.
I get it.
It's like a comedy. It's hilarious. But no, he actually breaks the 10 Commandments when he comes down and sees everybody sinning. And then he has to go back up.
he breaks them physically, or like he breaks the rules?
No, he like literally breaks the tablets.
Right.
They
Okay.
made of stone, and they. I don't remember if he like throws them or like they fall out of his hand like at a surprise.
Guys, now I'm gonna go back again. Come on, just stop sinning. I want to hit the road. We're behind.
And that's why people like say like, oh, originally maybe there were like 20 commandments. You never know.
Sure.
But I don't know how much he can carry down the mountain. So yeah, they just make a golden calf and they worship it. And now when you call something a golden calf, that's like called like that means a false item, false idol. Worshiping something that's not true.
So that's like a phrase that people use today?
That's a phrase people say, like golden calf, yeah.
That makes sense. I think I've heard that.
Just like scapegoat, for example, is also from the Bible. Like around the same book. Scapegoat, like there's... Actually, I think on Yom Kippur. Was it on Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur's Day of Atonement, right? Mm-hmm. So they would get this goat, and they'd be like, okay, we're transferring all our sins and all our transgressions onto this goat. Like, this goat represents all of our sins, and we're gonna throw it off the mountain as a sacrifice. And now you forgive us. Because the goat is now the vessel for our sins, basically. And that was our scapegoat. Because they threw it off the mountain or like let it go, and then it dies in the wilderness. Either it falls off the mountain and dies there, or they let it go, like they let it escape, and then it dies in the wilderness. I mean, it's just animal sacrifice. That's
hey, is it wrong to like eat animals?
They did it every day in 5,000 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It's just normal.
It's better than sacrificing humans. Some civilizations were doing that until like 500 years ago. I mean, most of the times, it's like that's like once a year. Most of like the animal sacrifices in Judaism is like you just like cook it and then you eat it.
I assume you're. I'm going to take an educated guess that you're not sacrificing any animals for this upcoming holiday, though. You don't do that.
Not until 2016, cancel culture and everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what do you? Yeah, how do you kind of observe this holiday?
Okay, well here's the thing. I'm gonna say there is something relatively similar to that you do the day before Yom Kippur, which is called Kapparot, which is you kill a chicken.
Okay.
You basically take the chicken, do a prayer while the rabbi like waves the chicken over your head, and then he kills the chicken.
Okay.
Obviously in like the most humane way, like he cuts like the jugular or whatever drains the blood like instantly, like you literally see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're like really religious, you use the chicken. You're allowed to just use money or like anything that has value and just wave that over your head. And then it's crazy. I've like as a 10-year-old, I go to the shul. They wave a chicken over my head, and right in front of you, they like slit the throat of the chicken, and it like automatically. It's crazy how quick the blood just drains out. Because again, this is the most humane way to kill it, apparently. Where it's like it literally drains the blood in a second. It's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy. I had the same reaction. Although honestly, I thought it was cool when I was a kid. But like, yeah, like imagine that happening to you. That's not fun.
Oh man.
Whatever. That's not how people celebrate the holiday. That's just one of the things you have to do. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, obviously. Yeah, and then right when the fast ends, you have like this crazy cool meal with whatever you want. Every family does a different awesome meal. I mean, a lot of religions, whenever they have a fast, you have an awesome meal at the end, and every meal has different kinds of foods based on where you are in the world. Like a Jew in China, I'm assuming, won't have what I ate. Although not many Jews in China. So like we're always like looking forward to that meal. Like every year, like I'm looking forward to that breakfast. Because imagine like a whole table full of like just your favorite food. Just for fasting one day, like Muslims, they have to fast for like a whole month, and they just get like every night they will have really good food, which that sounds fun. I know any Muslims tell us how Ramadan is, I guess, how fun that is, because like just one day of fasting and then having an awesome meal is pretty cool. But then the holiday coming up in a few days is Sukkot, which means huts, which is when the Jews were in the desert, they were literally, they made huts, and they, that's how their shelter. So it's just meant to mimic that. It's literally one of the 3 most important holidays, Sukkot, like that, along with like Passover, and then Shavuot, which is a holiday that commemorates when the Jews got the Torah, their holy book, or one of them. I don't know why like we really wanted to commemorate like just living in huts in the desert. I don't know why that was that important. So like for 7 days, you literally build a hut in your backyard, and you stay in it. Again, that's Orthodox Jews. A non-observant Jew will maybe not even build the hut and just barely do anything. They'll just have a meal. But a lot of like modern Orthodox Jews will build the hut, but they won't literally stay in it for 7 days. They'll just build it, do the meals there, and then go back home. But like Orthodox Jews will literally stay there unless it's like raining or it's cold or whatever. Again, life comes first, but like they'll literally stay in this hut for 7 days.
Wow.
Which again is probably like meditative and in your sense of the word, where they're actually thinking of their life and stuff like that. But it's supposed to be like a happy thing. Like you're there, you're eating a lot of desserts. People come over to your hut, you come over to their hut. Offer them food.
you get like an Ethernet connection routed in, or like you get your PC game set up.
In my sukkah, yeah, but again, you're not allowed to use electronics during Jewish holidays. At least the ones that are from the Bible. Like for example, Hanukkah is probably the most famous Jewish holiday, but that's like one of the least important Jewish holidays.
You know what? That's what struck me when you said that the one that you just did. Sorry, how do you pronounce it?
Which one? The one that I just did right now?
Yeah. Beginning with Y.
The one that I just did? Yeah, Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. So I've never heard of it. And I thought that was really interesting because you're saying it's the most important one. And I'm like, I've just never heard of it. I've obviously ever heard of Hanukkah.
Because it's not marketable. You don't buy gifts.
I guess. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, you don't sell it. Is
So all the holidays that are in the Torah, like Yom Kippur, you can't use electronics. That's like an actual holy holiday that's important in Judaism. But Hanukkah isn't. There's a few holidays that came like during the later arcs of Judaism, like way after they were exiled from Israel or whatever. Like Hanukkah. But yeah, I have some amazing memories just like during my childhood, like building this hut. Like I take it for granted because like at the time you're like, this is very annoying building a hut as a 10-year-old. A lot of manual labor, but it's so fun. Like imagine like having like a tree house. It's like
of course.
As a kid, having a tree house in your backyard that you get to go to for like a week. But yeah, that's that holiday. I hope it sounds weird because that sounds interesting.
It sounds interesting. It sounds really, really interesting. I don't really observe any kind of like proper holidays other than in a very commercial kind of way. So like I'll do Christmas because I think buying gifts and getting given gifts is fun. And that's the extent of it. I'll do Easter because I think chocolate is awesome, and I think I'll do Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday of the year because I love this time of year and dressing up. But like, like I don't really do anything anywhere near as kind of spiritual for that as a tradition. And I think that sounds both really, really fascinating and interesting, and also like probably a really incredible experience as well to. Because I imagine at different stages of life it's different. Like when you're a kid, it's probably just kind of annoying, and then it gets kind of fun to build the hut, and then maybe you hit one year where you go, you know what, I'm really going to engage with the teachings of what this is about, and yeah, probably quite a transformative experience. So I don't know, it sounds really interesting to me.
Again, yeah, but like most Jews, it's not. It's like it's just like Christmas is for Christians, even like religious Christians, where it's like you're not thinking about Jesus during Christmas, unless you're actually like what's the word for like religious Christian?
I think it's is it not still Orthodox?
Religious Christian? That's like maybe some sects of Judaism.
I guess devoted.
A religious Christian. It's just an excuse to eat. You're not even building the huts. Like again, I'm not building the huts right now. What's funny? There is a secret fourth holiday. Secret like obscure fourth holiday that even like secular Jews don't even celebrate, which is the day that we commemorate just getting the Torah, or not getting Torah, finishing the Torah, and because in Judaism, at least again the religious Jews, throughout the entire year, every week, let's say on Saturday, you go to shul, you go to synagogue, you pray, but you're also reading a portion of the Torah, and you literally go through one parsha, which is one like not chapter or book. There are 5 books, but there are like let's say 10 parshas in each book. Ugh. What would it be called? It's not a chapter.
Paragraph?
No, it's bigger than a chapter. It's like almost a book.
Oh,
like each of these chapters is a book. What would it be called? You're basically reading one book each week, and then you finish. Like it's calculated that you finish the entire Torah within 1 year, and then when you're done with it, you have this holiday. All you do in this holiday is you go to shul, carry these huge Torahs on your back, dance in a circle, and then the women throw candy at you.
I like the throwing candy part. That sounds
and
great.
then the kids collect the candy. It sucks because like this is one holiday that the adults just cannot enjoy anymore if they're adults. Like as a kid, this is the best thing ever. You're collecting the candy. Something like it's cool. It's like it's even better than Halloween in terms of collecting candy because like you basically have to like attack the other kids to get like the rare candies and then negotiate with the other kids. I mean, just like Halloween to get to trade candies and stuff like that. Very fun. But for the adults, they barely get the candy. Sometimes they'll, just like adults in Halloween will take the candy of their kid and be like, nah, this is the mom and dad tax or whatever. But but a lot of times also the shuls will give you like gift baskets the next day or like gift bags. But it's funny because that happens always like a week before like or around Halloween. So it's fun to like have some kind of like some candy for the Jews during that time.
I would love to talk Halloween with you, but I think maybe we'll save that for a little closer to Halloween. So
we should.
I think we're coming up on that time. That very special time of not just the year but the podcast. You know what I'm talking about?
The time where we generate a Pokemon?
No, the time where we talk about my week. Fine, let's just generate a Pokemon.
Not only am I not letting you talk about your week, I'm talking about my future week.
You go for it. Let's
did
generate that
something
Pokemon.
Happen? Did something happen in your week?
Yeah, loads. We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah, I guess I can't talk about my holiday at a different time, but whatever.
You've done it now. You've cashed it in now. That's it. That's your one. Oh, it's fascinating to hear about.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, yeah? What do we get?
Down sweet.
That is literally sweet. It's got sweet in the name.
Oh, it's perfect, too, for another reason that you don't know. So it's not based on an apple. It's based on a mangosteen, if you don't know, a tropical fruit.
Okay, sure.
For the audience. And possibly Toby. I don't know. But it looks like an apple, and the number one symbol of the Jewish New Year's, which just was a week ago, is the apple, because you're supposed to. One of the customs is to dip an apple in honey.
Okay.
So you have a sweet New Year.
Okay. Sure, you're saying it's an apple? I'm like thinking about Bound Sweet.
I'm saying it's not an apple.
It's not an apple. Is it supposed to look like an apple?
No, it's supposed to look like a mangosteen.
Well, that's what I thought. So why are you talking about apples?
I'm saying it looks like an apple.
Nah, it doesn't.
Bound Sweet? It's a red round fruit with a green stem and some leaves. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but it's like totally different. Like the leaves are humongous and it's got this white bit on the bottom of it.
Yeah,
like,
it's a stylized fruit. The leaves aren't that humongous in a mangosteen.
I have never looked at Bound Sweet in my whole life and thought it looks like an apple. I get what you're saying in terms of just like the general shape. It's a round thing with a stem on top and some leaves.
If a kid was going to draw an apple with a face, they would draw that with one less leaf. No, 2 less leaves. 3 less leaves technically, but from that perspective.
I don't know about that.
Let me look. Maybe you're looking. Maybe
it's also like the wrong shape because apples can kind of look like love hearts a little bit more, and like this is like a dome. I don't know. That's just me. I've just never thought of it like that. But like, you know, I'm still happy to hear about your holiday and the. Let
us know in the comment section.
Which of us?
If it looks like an apple, a bit.
Do you think? I think it looks like a bit like an apple. I've just never thought of it and thought apple. Like you say, it's an apple. I'm not. I could see that. I
don't think it's an apple.
No, but you think it looks like an apple.
Yeah.
Hey,
and orange looks like a pomelo, but like.
I'm gonna be really negative. I don't like its evolution line. I'm gonna be. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah. So yeah, Bound Sweet is my favorite of the line. I think Bound Sweet is amazing. Bound Sweet.
Me too. I agree.
Cute Pokemon to the max. One of the best cute Pokemon.
And everyone's gonna eat it. Everyone's threatening to eat it, which is really sad. I feel like everyone's always chasing it around and they're gonna eat it.
Oh, there's another connection to our Jewish holiday.
Yeah?
But we'll talk about it after we talk about the horrible evolutions. At least in your case, that's what you said. You said they're terrible, no good, very bad evolutions.
I said they were the worst thing since disease and since Chris Pratt as Mario. That's what I said. Those are my specific words.
Valid. I like Steenie. I think Steenie's really like that's a good balance of what I would have wanted the evolution even to be.
Okay.
Like the final evolution. But then Sarina, while I've come to like appreciate it more, because like you just start to like just different attributes and like the origin. And, cool, we have a BDSM Pokemon or whatever. like okay.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. That's exactly what I wanted.
Might as well. But like, yeah, I think there's a line from like when you try to make a Pokemon like sexy, it's like be a little more subtle, just a little tiny bit more subtle.
Wait, hang on. Are you saying it's too sexy?
I'm saying it's too lecherous. It's too
scandalous.
Scandalous. Like it's not like it's specifically like attractive, but it's more like it's really explicitly
trying to be.
You know,
a
dominatrix Pokemon. A dominatrix Pokemon.
Family-friendly Birdkeepertoby doesn't even know what that word means. I do not think it's sexy. I also... Do you know what? My reasons for disliking it are mostly just that, like... I feel like we've seen this Pokemon, like, half a dozen times before this. Like, the sort of very overly feminine grass humanoid. Like,
it's just...
Roserade, Blossom... Lilligan, Hisuian Lilligan. I feel like this trope has been done a lot. Huh?
Like, does a Lilligan feel like a Tarina?
They're pretty similar in my brain. They kind of feel the same.
They're like the opposite in terms of personality for me.
The same
like,
zone.
One's like way more like ladylike.
I think
and
also
like
the fact I know its name is Sarina, but the fact that there is a human character in Pokemon called Serena. And then this one is as humanoid as possible. Yeah, it bothers me. It really bothers me.
Well, it's more like a Tsarina is literally a Russian queen, for example. It's like literally the name of a human queen. So
right.
Like,
okay.
That maybe that's a more valid.
I don't know. I've not heard that before, so I didn't know that. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. Bound Sweet feels like a Pokemon. Feels like a creature living in the world.
Lilligant, I think, is a good example, is a successful one, while Tsarina I do think is a little too humanoid. I think that is my problem. Tsarina is a little too like, that's a human.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm on the same page. You had something else you wanted to talk about, though, in relation to bounty? Another reason it's perfect?
So it's based on a mangosteen, a tropical fruit that not a lot of people eat in at least my country. But that's a thing that you do in the Jewish New Year. Again, in order to usher the brand new year, you eat some fruit that you've never eaten, or like new fruit that you haven't eaten that year. And a lot of times you eat. I've told the whole story, like where I did a fruit sale, and on the fruit sale there are like, these tropical fruit that you would sell for Yom Kippur, not for Yom Kippur, for Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year's. And a mangosteen could have been there. It wasn't. It was more like dragon fruit and like star fruit and stuff like that. But a mangosteen could have totally been there. And like I should have eaten a mangosteen this year. I would have made like a whole tweet about it. It would have been fun for like a second.
Cool. I know you've been eager for us to deep dive into the I think the origins of Pokemon a little bit more.
It's not the origins of Pokemon. We're like, wow, isn't it interesting that Bounceweight is based on a mangosteen? It's more like,
cool.
Use the origin as a icebreaker or like a topic starter. For example, have you eaten? What's the last tropical fruit you've eaten? Do you eat much? Do you even eat fruit, Toby? I don't know about your habits.
I've never eaten fruit before. I've actually. I think I had a tomato earlier. I think that's the most.
It's like
the most.
The least fruit in the world,
I guess. No, I've never had a tropical. I don't think I've tried lots of tropical fruit, which is a shame because fruit's great. I think it's wonderful.
Really, I mean, I assume you eat fruits regularly, or I don't know, or do you not? Fruits,
a growing lad, so I eat fruit from time to time. I actually don't.
Like, what do you buy when you eat fruits? Okay, so that's why I don't know if what's sarcasm or not. I need to know.
This is British dry, non-funny British sarcasm, especially when I don't know. I'm trying to work out where the joke is, and then I'm like, oh no, I probably should have just taken that avenue. Yeah, no, I don't actually eat a lot of fruit. Not for any particular reason. I don't have a thing against fruit. Just when I do my weekly food shop, I don't really think about fruit because I think
really
a lot of fruit is the kind of thing that you'd eat independent of meals. Like,
snack.
And I would never choose to snack on. I don't like buying foods to snack on.
You don't buy snacks?
I do, but that's usually in the form of me like I won't buy that stuff in the weekly shop. That's more a case of I fancy a snack. I'm going to go stretch my legs and go to the little shop for a little bit. So I always walk to go get snacks, and I'll usually choose something a little bit more unhealthy than a bit of fruit. I don't even know if my local shop does that. I don't like having snacks in the house. For me, snack is a break in the day. It's like just part of the ritual of the day is like breaking the day up with a little walk to the local corner shop. And this
is contributing to you eating sweets instead because you're like, oh, I did some exercise. I walked for 10 minutes. Now I deserve a treat.
If I bought the fruit in the weekly shop, it wouldn't change anything. I'd just have fruit that would be going off. Because I like going for the walk.
It would change it if you ate it.
Well, sure, but then I would just be eating fruit on top of the other stuff I'm eating. So it's just like more sugar.
Don't eat it as a snack.
Yeah, no, but I would. But what I'm saying is I'd still do the walk to the shop. Like, for me, snacks.
That's good.
And walking. Yeah, but I'd still buy the snacks at the shop.
But you won't if you already ate a fruit and you're not hungry.
No, that's not what my relationship to food is. That's not how my relationship to food is at all. I would just be eating fruit, then going for a walk, then eating more sugar, and then coming back. That's not where it's at for me. That's a psychological thing.
Interesting. We'll talk about that more in a second.
Yeah,
for a different reason than you think. Actually,
okay.
I'm gonna go to a completely different topic based on what you just said.
All right,
but like first, I like fruit a lot. I like fruits. If you don't know, mango is my favorite fruit. I'm kind of obsessed with mangoes. Anything that is mango flavored, I will get.
Mango. Yeah,
love mango. Oh, and that's technically tropical, I think. Now I'm going completely left field. So I was trying to figure out. What are the ways that your autism manifests? Because I got a comment from a lovely viewer. Let me find this, actually.
I'll let you read your comment, but just so you know, it manifests in the form of a Pokemon YouTube channel. That's how my autism manifests.
Longtime viewer has commented that since I struggled with anxiety for a long time, that maybe I should consider, the fact that I have autism.
Okay.
And that this lovely, beautiful commenter has said that since the first episode, like my particular worldview and my like social issues and like my bluntness and my apparent rigidity and of my neuroticism, which is like need for control too, all could be attributed to autism.
Yeah, I'm sure they could.
But then, for example, you as a person with autism have none of that. Like you have no social issues. You are not blunt. You aren't very rigid.
It really depends on the circumstances. Like no social issues isn't true. They display very differently.
Your issues are most often not social. At least more than the average person in a way that is due to
maybe
mental.
It's a
difference.
complicated one because I definitely had those social issues in terms of like being able to connect with people when I was younger. Now, I think I'm aware that I behave oddly around people, but that's not. It doesn't. It makes me more approachable. Like, he's an oddball. This is kind of a quirk. He's a fun guy.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
You're, for example, you're able to like understand social cues. I'm assuming. And, like,
Yeah, I think so.
But was that learned?
I don't know. I don't know. Do you know?
I still don't know why you're autistic. I don't know. I don't understand it.
It might be.
I don't know what it
learned
means.
because I've got like reports, like school reports of people who came in to observe me at school, who like talk about like having conversations with me, and what they would find as a child is that like I had zero interest in anything basically outside of Pokemon, and if I was asked a question like, Toby, how are you? I would not answer about how I am. I would not ask the other person how they are. I would tell them about the last thing that happened to me in the world of Pokemon. That
is a very autistic thing
and that
to
made
do,
sense to me as a response to that question. So I don't think it's. So I think maybe through drama, perhaps that's been a way of learning. I don't know.
Yeah,
I really
again, you have like
say.
it's a spectrum, and you have a very like low level autism, but like also, as a kid, it's also easier to diagnose because I'm assuming you had like issues in school.
Yes,
as
yeah.
Talked
Lots,
about.
yeah.
And that's when it's like those are the big factors in determining autism in a child. But again, like, so I just want to be clear. It's like I really do not have autism. Why am I? I'm not. It's not like a defense. Like people are calling me autistic. It's more like I want you guys like to not like assume based on what I have that that's what like autistic people have. So for example, like I haven't struggled with anxiety during my life. Like again, that's not a thing that all autistic people have to struggle with. But like my anxiety is exclusively social anxiety due to being like isolated for a few years, not just not talking to a lot of friends, and during that time becoming a famous YouTuber where again all of my opinions, instead of talking to normal people, all of my opinions of myself were based on what people said online. Thousands of comments. Yeah. That's how I interacted with people for like a few years, when all my friends were gone for college, and that just slowly made me like paranoid about how people think of me, and that just translates. And then because I'm just not interacting with a lot of people for a few years, I'm just rusty in when it comes to social issues. But let's say before that, I had no problem, being in social situations. I was obviously still introverted, so like I preferred being by myself. But I can easily tell like social cues, and I could, like nobody was like, "Wow, Ron is off in how he speaks to people or whatever," or how he. I'm also as rigid and neurotic as just the average person with an anxiety disorder. Like it has nothing to do with autism. It's like people with anxiety are gonna be neurotic, and my rigidity is I'm actually very not rigid at all, compared to like. Apparently, like rigidity is a huge thing in autistic people. At least from what I hear, any autistic people in the comments let us know how your rigidity manifests. But like, I have there's nothing I'm rigid about. I'm rigid about things that affect my like health. Like for example, like my routines that I have to do in order to make my IBS and like acid reflux better, like going to the bathroom in the morning or whatever. I don't know. But like when it comes to like I don't know like. Things on my desk, I don't have OCD or anything. I don't have like if someone's like, if like a friend comes to me and like, hey, you want to have fun, let's do a thing, I'll be like, oh yeah, let's do that thing, even if it like, you know, I had work or something. But like, do you have any rigid things that anything you're rigid about? So like, for example, I only brought this up because it seems like your relationship with food may have to do with autism. But it probably
actually may well do in quite a large way, that I'm beginning to unpack at the moment. I'll get into that, but I can't think of anything specific, but it's the kind of thing that when I do it, I go, yeah, that right there. I've noticed, though, I've spent a large amount of time, whether like right from being young and sitting in learning support to being a teenager and going to Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments and Pokemon tournaments, and then into being a YouTuber, meeting other creators who went, yeah, me too, and then also meeting viewers regularly who are very passionate about whether it's Pokemon or Power Rangers or Zelda or whatever, and it's so clear. And what I find is that the range of expression of autism is quite wide. There is no one thing that I could put my finger on and say that's the unifying factor. But I also like there's almost like different types, different, you know, ways. And obviously the people that I typically interact with who are autistic are more socially like aware, because if they weren't, I probably wouldn't be interacting with them. However, through doing YouTube and obviously meeting viewers, like I'll meet viewers who are, there's just, you can tell there's just no understanding of social cues, social barriers, that kind of thing. But what I will say is that I do think I have a bit of a knack of going, you're somewhere on this spectrum. I'm not sure.
Not gonna lie, I think I have that ability too. I feel like more people have that ability than you think.
Maybe
it's just like a normal thing to tell when someone's autistic. Is it just normal to feel when someone's, you know, just a bit different than you? The question is like, do you think autistic people are more aware of other autistic people, or because like I've always been
some
wow, like
I guess,
this person,
you know?
I think is very autistic, even though like they haven't explicitly told me so, and they just like they're clearly also like, you know, more higher functioning autistic,
I think some
but
people
I can still
are,
sense their autism.
Aren't, you know, I think there are. It's always been amusing to me, the people that I meet who I'll make that assumption, and then and I'm not saying this is what you're doing, by the way, but like I'll meet people and I'll make that assumption, and then they're like, I'm not autistic, and I'm like, okay, if you say so, and I'll just think that, which is quite a rude thing to do, but I'll think that, and I'll, you know, think it quite loudly. And just sort of
interactions with other people are literally all about assumptions. Yeah, it's like you're gonna make assumptions,
but like
you're gonna
if no one needs if you don't need the label to live, like who cares? Like, you know, one of the big things we spoke about early on in this podcast actually was how useful the label even is and what it all means, and you know what I mean. And like I don't have any more answers now, 25 episodes on to where we were sort of half a year ago. Whoa, we've been doing this podcast for nearly half a year.
Oh, what's funny is I was gonna literally bring that up in the beginning. Like, no, this is literally a few episodes away from half a year. It's crazy how it doesn't feel like that. It feels like
we released 3 together at the beginning, right? So technically, I think we got a little longer to go, but like we're basically half a year of the Calm Mind.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when it comes to like, we recorded the first episode half a year ago at least.
Can I read a comment that I made?
Well, I'm not done with this. I'm not.
Well, no, this is about this sort of. But you go first, because I think yours is going to be more relevant.
But when it comes to, for example, my bluntness, people are like, oh, that's not people in the comments are like, oh, that may be a reason that you may be autistic. But it's like, again, that's just how I like learn to socialize. It's like, or again, based on my experiences. It's not based on like any neurodivergence or anything like that. It's just experience. Like a kid will, based on how they were brought up, will just be more blunt or not. Mm-hmm. It's like people around me were way more blunt. Again, I grew up within an Israeli household, like way more blunt than the average, you know, American, for example. But which, I mean, Americans are already blunt. Like an American is way more blunt than a Japanese person. Doesn't mean that Japanese people see Americans as autistic or something. It's just some people are blunt. Again, but I'm opposite. That's like the opposite when it comes to like strangers. When I'm with strangers, I'm the opposite of blunt. You're gonna be way more blunt than with a stranger, for example, than I am. But like, because like my social anxiety prevents me from like risking being rude with those that I'm not too close to. And the last thing I can think of is just like sensory issues. Like that was never a problem. Like I have the opposite of lack of sensory issues. I love senses. Yeah. like I love all the senses that I feel. But yeah, again, it doesn't seem like you have any sensory issues. So it's like, again, that's not apparently, like, definitely has a, I don't know. I wonder what people in the comments, people listening who were only diagnosed with autism as an adult, I want to know what was the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Because clearly as a kid, it wasn't that big. Like your symptoms weren't that huge that it wasn't.
Well, they were,
obvious.
and you know, parents didn't know to investigate or to look into it, and you know,
true.
And a lot of these things you don't think about until you're older, and then you sort of go, why haven't I looked into that? You know, I got lucky that my mum and dad were very on it when they were like, look,
yeah, Toby's
gonna need some extra support here. He's gonna need extra help. We need to doctors and get to the bottom of this and work out the whole thing. There was a whole battery of sort of like I guess examinations and watching me socializing and interacting with other people, and pretty quickly they came back and went, yep, this definitely. How can we help? Which was great. So
I guess the deciding factor really is, as a child, social or educational issues. Mm-hmm. I had none of that. So like I had zero. I excelled in that. So it's like I had
sensory issues as a kid, and I actually this is all coming together really beautifully. So 2 weeks ago we released a podcast episode that, as you know, I was so anxious about going out because we got this is the whole debate about eating animals, right? And that I was super anxious about this, and yeah. What I found, by the way, thank you to our listeners, our comments from vegans, vegetarians, and anyone else have been amazing. I was reading them all last night. I was replying to as much as I could.
Yeah, you were a little too much. I was getting notification every time you were commenting
Sorry,
on someone.
But I was really engaged with this discussion. Everyone was just meeting that discussion with like the level of thoughtness that I think the discussion was intended in. But one of the comments mentioned about the relationships that people have to food. And I left this comment, which I said to them to thank you. I thanked them because they didn't ignore this factor. But it is something that I think is ignored in the discussion at large. So I'm 28 now, and I'm only just beginning to unpack my relationship with food in therapy.
That's crazy.
As in literally the last therapy session I had, you know, we know there's a problem there. We know it's an issue. We know that despite there's a lot going well in my life right now, but my eating habits are actually really, really bad at the moment. And so I've spoken to her and I've said, okay, I'm going to come in on Monday and we're going to have a chat, and I want to go through basically the entire history of me and food, and work out what's up. And what I was saying is, if what I ate on a daily basis was purely a logical, thought-out decision based on health and well-being, or heck, even necessarily taste, I'd have much better organs, I'd be in better shape, I'm sure I'd have a better relationship to food. I'll skip this bit. But the fact is that food is so deeply interwoven, and you know, I sort of mentioned tradition, and I think that was in lack of the other word. It's so entrenched in trauma, joy, love, sadness, comfort, memories, that relationship to food for me, I guess for some people maybe is very analytical and straightforward, like if I put X in, I get Y out kind of situation. For me, it's not. It's deeply tied to my feelings and comfort. And I can think right back to being a toddler and chewing on my favorite toy, and getting the taste of baked beans out of its ear. Probably because I had baked beans sticky on my face or something, you know, because I'm a toddler. Ew. Right? Soz. But the thing is like, that was comfort. And even that's my earliest memory of kind of putting things in my mouth, and it's a memory of comfort. And I can think of all of the ways in which, like even today, for example, I watch Bake Off with Phoebe, the Great British Bake Off, which is obviously a show filled with food that looks amazing, and we watch it around lunchtime, and so I eat food, and then after I'm kind of full and I get that lunch snooze afterwards, I'll curl up on Phoebe's lap and I'll have a sleep. That is when I feel my absolute safest and happiest. Is after a belly full of food. And so there are these relationships that we build with food over time. And I think, regardless of whether we're talking about, being vegan, or whether we're talking about just making decisions that are good for your health, it is not as simple certainly for me, and I think for many people, maybe even the majority of people, as just do X. It's like, thanks, I hadn't thought of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Whenever you give advice to a lot of people, usually they've already thought of it.
Yeah.
But, and like you said, I'd say a majority of people struggle with changing their food habits, and it has nothing to do with autism or anything. So I just wonder if it's exacrabered because you have autism. It could well be.
Chewing as a kid, and has clearly continued into adulthood. I'm awful for chewing everything, whether it's on my desk or whatever. But also, when I was a kid, it was odd. I almost had a completely different relationship to food. I remember being sort of 10, 12, 13, and I wouldn't eat anything that looked wrong. This is to say that I would only eat a specific brand of ham that had a specific texture. When we went on holiday, I remember
that's very autistic.
Yeah, I would only eat burgers, and the idea of mincemeat in particular sounded awful to me. The texture was all wrong, and these things really bothered me as a kid. And I was quite a small kid, and it was only really as I became a kind of older teenager that suddenly everything started to flip a little bit. So I'm getting my notes ready. I'm going ready into therapy on Monday. I'm let's get to the bottom of this,
That's cool. Again, always just learning about yourself is always fun.
Yeah.
And yes, it seems like a common thing among autistic people is definitely rigidity in something. Whether it is with for example, just the things you enjoy, becoming obsessed with a franchise or eating a specific food or a habit, work, and again, all of these can manifest in other anxiety disorders and neurodivergent. I don't know what you even call them, things,
flourishes.
Kinds of people. But again, for example, I'm not obsessed with anything. I'm obsessed with in a level that I think other people are obsessed with things. I'm even Pokemon. I can not talk and think about Pokemon for a month if I needed to. For example, it's not a part of my routine. It's my job, so yes, it's part of my. It's mandatory to think about, and I love it. But it's it's not a rigidity thing. People always think that just again, it is very autistic to make a PokeTuber channel, but it's it was more a logical thing for me. It's this is just simply my favorite franchise. Everybody has a favorite franchise. I know more about this franchise than any other franchise, and it's something that it's also the biggest franchise ever. So it was all logical. It was all logic based. It wasn't oh, I've been obsessed with this and I need to only talk about this forever.
I think the rigidity when it comes to you, and again, I'm not saying whether you're autistic or not, I got no clue. I'm not a medical professional, right? That I've noticed is that you are I feel like I'll say things sometimes and you'll either I'll say it clumsily or maybe I've just got a different perspective. And you're so intrigued to know my perspective, but in a way that sounds that goes against what I think and know, and you get quite agitated about it, and you really want to know why the heck Toby would possibly think anything other than the framework that you have for the world. Am I wrong about that? Because I think that would be that kind of rigidity, no?
I don't know if I would call that rigidity.
System
though.
That you've got.
Your assessment of my personality is correct, but I don't know if I would use the word rigidity. It's because I'm not it's not I'm not accepting your perspective. It's more I think it's more related to social anxiety, where it's I really
it
sucks that me and my friend have this different perspective, and it's I'm gonna think about this for a few weeks, so I might as well get the actual answer because I'm comfortable with you. So I'm gonna.
But the fact that you could think about it for several weeks isn't that the obsessiveness that maybe
that's social anxiety. Again,
okay,
it's that's just a form of anxiety. I have an anxiety disorder. I'm gonna think. I'm gonna be anxious about a thing. I don't understand when people are oh, you have an anxiety disorder. That means you're autistic. No, that's not they're a different thing. It's just that they're a person who has autism isn't thinking of it, like they may be thinking about a thing for a specific thing, but for a completely different reason than a person who is anxious.
It's frustrating as well when people on the internet in the comments sort of, even if they're well intentioned, are saying like they're like trying to diagnose you, and that's not the case, and so you're sort of
I've been through therapy for 3 years. I think my therapist would know if I have autism or not.
Right. Right. That was one of the things. Actually, there was one comment on the the debate that we had, or the discussion that we had about meat eating, where somebody said, I think Toby is trying to do this, and it really bothered me, and I was so tempted to reply with like a long, lengthy reply, and then I thought no. Because people are going to watch it and people are going to misunderstand or kind of take the wrong thing from it. So instead what I did was I just sort of replied, I think you misunderstood my point. Maybe I explained it poorly, like, go watch something else, I think was the gist of the comment. But it's really frustrating because you're like, I thought I represented myself perfectly in the thing, but apparently I didn't.
Yeah, it's the worst. Imagine how I feel when that happens.
Yeah, I know. This is a specific thing for you.
So, but for example, like the rigidity that you were talking about when it comes to like me being like freaked out whenever like you have a completely different like worldview isn't me not liking your worldview or thinking that you're wrong or anything. It's more like from a social anxiety perspective. Again, this is not autism. That's a psychological. They're all psychological. It's like I would assume it's a physical thing. Like there's something different in your physical brain, right?
Maybe
I would assume. While anxiety disorders, while something physical in your brain will make you prone to an anxiety disorder, like autism will make you prone to some anxiety disorder, I would assume. But most anxiety disorders, it's like an experience caused this anxiety disorder. Autism isn't based on like an experience. You don't just have an experience, now you have autism.
No.
So like I have experiences that now lead me to have a certain perspective, which leads me to have anxiety over social issues. For example, the reason why I have like this whole like earth-shattering moments whenever you have like a completely different perspective for me is not because I think you're wrong and that I'm right, or that I need to stay in my worldview in order to feel good. It's more that, oh no, I have this like I have anxiety whenever like just people aren't in harmony, where just like everybody's like, I thought people were on the same page in this thing, and now I'm learning that they aren't, and that's just like, it's not like I'm right and they're wrong or vice versa. It's more like, we're further away from world peace than I thought. Like it's like, oh no, like it's like, I thought this was just finally a thing that we could agree on, and it's like, no, like everybody is like, I like it when we can agree on things, and then like when people agree on things when people just disagree on things, it's like, again, it's illogical it's illogical to realize that everybody disagrees on things.
Yeah, of course.
And again, this is all illogical thoughts. I'm not saying this is a correct way of thinking, but it makes me anxious when we can't agree on things.
Can we? Go on.
But weirdly, the whole point of the podcast, at least from my perspective, is that I want to disagree. I want to debate, and I want to have like fun arguments and fun. Like I want to hear your perspective being completely different than mine, because then it's more entertaining. So why am I not anxious when that happens? Why am I not anxious when you bring a completely different perspective than mine on the podcast, at least?
Because we've pre-decided the rules of engagement here.
Exactly. So
it's okay for us to disagree.
That's why I feel like I'm anxious. That's why I feel like I'm anxious when the rules aren't pre-decided. I just don't like when the relationship is blurred. I know my relationship with you, and then anything that I say, I feel like it won't cause a catastrophe. Maybe based on experiences I had in the past when I just didn't fully understand the relationship, things went wrong. Again, that's based on experience, not based on autism. And that's what caused me to have social anxiety. So the answer is that it's not the shift in perspective that is a problem. I actually really enjoy it. That's why since I'm your friend, I will ask you, hey, why do you think this? This is interesting, when it's completely different than my perspective, and like our relationship isn't ruined or anything. But when it's a completely different, like a person that I'm not familiar with, when they present me with a completely different perspective, I don't know how to respond. Do I go along with it? Do I offend them and say that they're again, I don't have to. It's not black and white. I don't have to say they're completely wrong. I can be like polite about it and all that. But I just don't know what the rules are for each person who presents me with a different perspective.
Yes, it depends on a couple things: your relationship to them, the context in which the conversation is happening, or
exactly.
You know, like for example, if I
and I know the answers. Yeah. I know the answers. It's just that I don't have experience because again, I was isolated for a few years.
Yeah.
And while I was surrounded by people online, thousands of people who would blow up on any small thing that I would say. Any small thing, I didn't know what was the correct thing to say anymore because the comments would have completely different reactions to what I would say. One person would be totally fine with what I said, while another person would be completely not fine. And that messed with my mind. So that's why it's not autism.
There is no correct thing to say. You just
there is no correct thing to say, and I don't know what to say anymore.
Whatever your heart tells you. What's your heart telling you right now, Ron?
To explain more, which is the fact that but we're getting to the point where when I have my perspective online, someone has a completely different perspective. When it's online, anything could happen. They could blow up on you. They can be like, you are wrong, you're the worst person ever. And that's why now when I'm presented with someone who does that in real life, like an actual friend, I get anxious. Slowly I'm learning not to do that, obviously. I'm way better than I was a few years ago. It's like, again, if you were to present with, like, I remember like being completely dumbfounded by the fact that you didn't enjoy Snivy, for example, even though I don't care about Snivy. Yeah. And maybe we had like one of those conversations where like I was like, please explain to me why you don't like Snivy or whatever. That was less because of your opinion about Snivy. It's more like, oh snap, we have a completely different opinion on this thing. I hope nothing bad happens.
This is what the falling out is over. Yeah, it's Snivy.
Well, by now, if you brought up a Pokemon that you don't care about, like we've done it a billion times in this podcast where I generate a Pokemon, it's like nothing bad's gonna happen. I know that, so it's like it's relearning how to socialize with people, basically.
I got a Pokemon that I think we're gonna have different opinions on. Farigiraf? Am I saying that right?
Farigiraf? I didn't know how to pronounce it like a day ago.
Hang on. How do you say it?
Farigiraf.
No, it's got to be the J because giraffe.
I know that the last part is giraffe.
What? I thought it was giraffe. Because it's a giraffe.
No, they pronounce it in the trailers.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
all right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong then.
No, Farig. Why am I just not looking it up?
It's like it's a palindrome, right? It's like, or it's the it's
no, Farigiraf would make sense then.
Yeah,
Farigiraf. Yeah,
my dyslexia hates that. I was really not excited by it.
Well, really,
until I saw some artwork of it with its sort of second head closed, and I went, "That's the coolest thing. It's super creepy. I love the idea that its tail has taken over its head." But that's not what's actually happened. Its tail and its head are working together, and I just think with the head open, it just looks really rubbish, and I really wish that wasn't the case. I really wish it wasn't wearing the hood. I wish it was just like the Girafarig head was gone, and it was the tail is now the head. I think that's like so solid.
So this was the last Pokemon that I think that I saw leaked. Like any new Pokemon, I wouldn't have seen it. So I saw this way before it was revealed, and yeah, and the leaks always look terrible. So when I saw the leaks, I was like, not the best. But when you see it, like the actual official art and in-game, it looks amazing. I actually really like it. I'm a big fan of hoodie Pokemon with hoodies.
Okay.
Some of my favorite Pokemon just have hoodies, apparently, like Decidueye. I like it when it's natural, like and clever, like this. Like it is clever. Like the hoodie is the second the tail. And a lot of like fake Girafarig evolutions that have been made in the past, it was like the head takes over the tail takes over the head, but it was always like sad. But this is a good, clever amalgamation of the idea of it taking over its head, but also it's not sad. I like that. I like that it's not sad.
This is exactly the kind of Pokemon where like that dark twist I think would have really made it for me. That's just my personal taste. Like
I don't like Pokemon that are uncomfortable.
Well, the tail now head would be very happy about it, so it wouldn't be. It's got a big smile. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be uncomfortable
unless the uncomfortability is part of the concept. Like like Esper, I guess. I love Esper.
Yeah.
Like, it's charming. The fact that it's uncomfortable, I guess. That's the only Pokemon that I like.
I guess my thing was that, like, I feel like they could have mixed up the types then. It could have been, like, Psychic Dark or something, like, kind of really messed up.
But it's not Dark.
It's not. It's now just, it's still Psychic Normal. And it's basically just bigger Girafarig now wearing a hood. And I don't know. I don't know why. It's just not hit the spot for me, unfortunately. But I thought you'd like it. It seems like a you Pokemon, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a Pokemon I would have designed. Although I have made a Girafarig evolution, completely different. But I just like that we finally have a long-necked, like, actual giraffe Pokemon.
Yes.
I love that it's just the next step. I love evolutions that are just next steps of the concept of the previous concept, which is all good evolutions in Pokemon are that. I think it's both beautiful and intimidating. Like, it's, like, pretty a bit, but it's also just, like, goofy. And I love Pokemon that are the most popular Pokemon are a mixture of cool, cute, and intimidating. And I think it has all that. It's just like a good example of a Pokemon. It's like the first Pokemon in this region that was just like finally just like a Pokemon. like it's like a fully realized concept. While even though I like Smoliv, it's not the final evolution. I don't see the final concept yet. I don't see the final concept in Lechonk. I don't see the final concept in any of the starters or any Pokemon that was revealed except for Grafaiai and Satitan.
What about the Ceruledge? If I'm saying
they're mysterious. I don't know what's up with them. Okay. They're cool and everything, but they're a little too like cool. Like they're just like
they're too cool.
That's their thing. They're cool. I love them, but like I want what's another like just I want to like see more Pokemon. Normal Pokemon in the world that are just cool. Like all the other regions, there's a bunch of Pokemon that I don't think Toxicroak. It's just a random Pokemon there. Cool Pokemon. It's a Pokemon. I want to just see the fully realized normal Pokemon that aren't like related to the starters or the
that makes sense.
Legendaries. And we haven't gotten any of that. This is the first final evolution that's just a normal Pokemon that also isn't related to any special Pokemon or anything.
By the time we're recording the next episode, I bet we'll have seen new Pokemon. We're at the point now where I don't know if you've realized we're like 5 weeks away from the games coming out. It's
what?
Yeah, it's like creeping up. It's like basically a month away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the thing is like the last month, they tend to do pretty much weekly sort of events and news and trailers and stuff. So,
like we literally did not, and this is an evolution of a Pokemon we already know. We have not gotten a final evolution for a family of new Pokemon.
Yeah,
none of them. We have not, and those are my favorite kind of Pokemon.
Yeah, it's
you haven't
kind
got
of
any
wild.
of those.
We really haven't seen much at all, but maybe that'll be part of the excitement of it. Did you notice that the trailers, like the Japanese trailer, was way higher quality than the the English? And it was really weird because I'm watching that, and if it wasn't for Twitter, I would have been sitting here really worried about these games. Like, man, that looks so bad.
Oh, really? I just didn't notice it while I was watching.
Oh, I did.
I don't.
I was. Do you know? It's like one of my lowest PokeTuber excitement moments where I'm streaming this trailer, and usually I'm like, "Yeah, here we go. We're gonna watch some Pokemon trailer. I'm so excited." And this one, I could not contain my disappointment at basically everything that was happening. And then,
really,
I was, and people in the chat were like, "Dude, stop being such a killjoy." I'm like, literally go watch it somewhere else then. Like, I'm not, I'm normally Mr. Excited. I am normally that guy, but like right now, like I'm just, everything was really disappointing. And then actually I saw the other trailer and immediately that removed some of the fear and worried. And then after that.
So most of your fears and worries were about the visual and lagging stuff?
Yeah.
Oh. Because like all the game mechanics that were revealed, I loved. I love the TM stuff, the TM machine.
The disappointment in the trailer was that I feel like the majority of the stuff that was in that trailer was stuff either largely implied already that I could have just waited to find that out. That was not a hype builder for me. That was like, oh, okay, so that's how that feature works. I guess I'll discover it now rather than in game. It didn't mean anything. But for a 14-minute trailer to get the like kind of one new reveal. Of course, there were like a number of Pokemon that were like cited around the place.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
There was
but none of them were final evolutions.
Yeah.
Of families that are new.
I wonder if there'll only be like 20 new Pokemon in this region. That's what they'll do.
What the hell's going on?
Smallest Pokemon.
What's going on? But the only thing that I didn't talk about this when I was also streaming. This was the first time I was streaming a reveal instead of like making a reaction video. When I was watching it, I didn't talk about it, but I only after the fact I noticed that the one negative thing that I really don't like is that it seems like all the Pokemon in the overworld, like they're not, when you approach them, they're not like interacting with you. They're just static and just still. What was up with that compared to even?
Well, I
even
noticed
in,
that.
You know,
I noticed that with the Jigglypuff, but like, was that like that for
the
everything?
Litleo that you're battling with.
Oh, true.
You're battling against every single thing. Oh, the Lechonk too. In the beginning, they should like in the
True,
beginning
it
of the
wasn't,
trailer,
you're
you're battling
right.
Lechonk. You just walk up to it. It's not even interacting with you. Even though I know for a fact that the Pokemon will be interacting with
Yeah,
you.
because
Like, I know for a fact
they've
that,
shown it in past trailers.
yeah.
Maybe that's
Maybe those were those were probably the Pokemon that you have, like the Pokemon that you put your own Pokemon in the overworld. But like I know for like the Pokemon, like for example, you see more like Pokemon sleeping in the overworld.
Uh-huh.
You see Pokemon interacting with themselves in the overworld, but not with the trainer. We haven't seen that. Even though again, like in Generation 8, they were doing that.
Have you not seen it? Have you not seen it with like
Arceus?
Smoliv in the first trailer or something? Or no? Maybe not.
I
Maybe
don't know.
we
I'll go
haven't.
back. First to be specific for anybody listening, I want to find a part of any footage where the Pokemon notices you in the overworld. A wild Pokemon notices you in the overworld and does something about it.
That guy. He caught all my friends.
Because that was my favorite part of Generation 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each game did it better. Arceus obviously did it the best, but different teams were working on Arceus simultaneously with this game, so I get a lot of features in Arceus not being in Scarlet and Violet, but it was already a thing in Sword and Shield where the Pokemon in the overworld were interacting with you.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that wasn't there.
Or at least looked at you when you were around them. Did they? That was happening in the wild area,
It was. No, it definitely was. Yeah, because
they
sometimes
would
they get the
literally-
little
they would
exclamation
come up to
mark
you.
and they'd turn around.
Other than the ones that would literally attack you, there was, the friendly ones would literally look at you and start crying.
Like, crying.
Like Pokemon cry.
Oh,
Screeching.
oh, not like, he killed my family. Yeah.
At least not all the time. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I kill Pokemon.